Hi there, we are going to do an exercise called creating multiple parts in a part studio. So let's go ahead and get started. So first I'm at my Onshape Learning Center and I'm going to go into the new to Onshape pathway. We're going to scroll all the way down to multi-part studios and let's hit continue. All right, and this is the exercise we're going to do. It's under section 3, creating multiple parts in a part studio. So I'm going to click here, and this is the thing that we're going to be creating from a master sketch. It's the same master sketch you made in the last exercise. So I'm going to hit the next page arrow, and you can see we've got this master sketch. Now, before we had to make that from scratch. This time we're going to click on this link, and it will magically appear to us someday. Okay, you saw me click the link. Where is it? There we go. All right, now I have to click make a copy to edit. And I'm going to click on, in my case, owned by me. And make a copy there. All right, so here is that sketch that is exactly the same as the one we did before. And the idea of this sketch actually represents a profile for many parts, and we are going to create those parts now. It's all about extrudes and fun other things like that. So let's go back to our instructions and go on to the next slide. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to extrude what's called the large arm 5 millimeters in the direction that I would call towards us. Okay, looking at it this way. So I'm going to hit extrude. And I'm going to start selecting things. Okay, now I like to select things in order. So I'm going to click here, click here, click here. Now, here's a thing that gets a lot of people in trouble. You also see how there's like kind of a bullseye look in here? We need to get that one in there too. We need those holes to all be the same size. As a matter of fact, it might be a good idea to actually click that first because it's a little easier to get at. Okay, and I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to do that one, and that one. Okay, if you notice we're missing a couple little slivers here, so we better get those. And now we got our part. Now that's way too big. It was supposed to be 5 millimeters, so I'm going to type 5, and there we go. That is our part. You know, the arrow is pointing what I would say towards us, and that's what we want. So let's go ahead and accept that. And there you go. Now, it says rename the part in the parts list large arm. So I'm going to go over here, right click, rename it large arm. This process is important because you're going to be creating quite a few parts, and you really don't want to have part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. That kind of thing will get very confusing. Calling it the large arm, which is what it looks like, is going to be the helpful thing to do. All right, let's go on to the next part. Slide 3, show the master sketch so we can see it for making additional parts. Now, in this case, it didn't hide the master sketch when we did that, so we don't really have to do that. I'm not exactly sure why sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but in this case, it did not hide the sketch, so we don't need to do that. Let's move on to slide 4. Now we're going to flip it around and create a second part, also 5 millimeters, coming in the other direction. So it's important that I turn it around and make it kind of, there we go, and make it so I can see it. So it's coming towards me again. I'm going to hit extrude. This time I'm going to select the 5 millimeters first. And then I'm just going to start clicking on things like I did before. And again, we want that inner ring right there. So I'm going to click that first. And you notice it's going in the wrong direction. I'm going to click the arrow to change that. And then I'm going to start moving my way out. Now you notice I missed a little part here. And it's giving me some grief. I'm not sure why at this point. Well, there you go. Grief gone. These things can be a little funny sometimes, depending on the order of operations. But if you keep at it, things will work out. Now, see how it says add here? It's going to add this to this part. We don't want that. We want this to be a new separate part. So we're clicking new, and we're going to accept it. And you notice it made it a different color. Every time you make a new part, it will auto-select a new color for it. And there you go. Now, let's go on to the next slide. We are going to make a sketch on the plane that basically sandwiched in between the two parts. So on the large arm right here, oh, that reminds me, I missed something. We need to go back and rename this part to small arm. There, whoop, small arm. There we go. Okay, got ahead of myself. Okay, so let's make that sketch plane. So I'm going to hover over that surface, right click, and hit new sketch. So now I have a new sketch that's kind of in between the two. All right, what do they want us to do? They said hide the master sketch. Okay, well, we can do that. And by the way, sometimes you need to do things like, things will just start to get in the way. I'm going to hide that master sketch, and it's just for clarity. It's not going to hurt anything at this point, and you notice the sketch has been renamed large arm grip sketch. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to click the little pencil, large arm grip sketch. Okay. Okay, so let's see what they want us to make. Okay, I think the transition between the last slide and this slide can be confusing. We're zooming in on this portion of the large arm to get this. It kind of, it kind of looks like it, right? But that's exactly what we're doing. So I'm going to go back to my part, and I'm going to hit N, so I'm looking in on it. And I'm going to, by the way, if you hover over a certain part of the drawing as you're zooming in and out, it will actually focus on that part. If I actually hover over here, it focuses more on that portion of it. And that's cool, because that's what I want to do. And one of the things that I actually realized is I don't think hiding the master sketch actually makes sense. I don't know, we'll see, because we're going to actually need that line. So I'm going to unhide the master sketch because we need this line right here in our sketch. So I think they kind of goofed it a bit, but that's okay. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a center rectangle starting from here and going out. And then we're going to make some lines. And they want us to project this circle into it. That's what the project is. Use the whole edge of the large arm. Center line is the master of the sketch. These lines are equal. That's a midpoint. And you notice that's a construction line, and we got a couple dimensions. And then this dimension. So let's start off by making that center line. Center point rectangle. And I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it out. So it's approximately what we want. Okay, now I'm going to go back. I want to see something here. The sides of the rectangle are equal. Yeah. We want this to be a square. And for it to be a square, all four sides need to be equal. Now, in a rectangle, every opposite side is already equal. So we only need to make equal, say, the top and one of the sides. And then that will form it into a square. Now, if I want that square to go black, this is the key dimension right here. This 1 millimeter dimension from the center line. So I'm going to get my dimension tool. I'm going to click here and here, go out and make that 1. And you notice it went black. Okay, so now I'm going to create this center structure. It's just a triangle that's 10 wide and 10 tall. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's do that. So I'm going to start with the line. Now, by the way, they said they want this, they want that center line to come up as a midpoint. Well, the thing you're going to notice, it's also straight down from there. There's multiple ways we could do this. I'm going to click to start the line, and you notice when I get here, I'm creating a vertical dimension. I actually want that. So I'm going to click that, come back down here, and double click and end it. Then I'm going to turn it into a construction line, start right here and go straight down. And if you notice, it lines up with the midpoint. So I didn't need to add the midpoint constraint afterwards. That's what I got by lining up with that, that point that's the center of that circle. Now I also need to project in that circle right there. Oops, I made it into an accidental construction line. Is that the end of the world? No, because I'm going to hit escape to get out of my tools. I'm going to highlight my construction line, and I'm going to deconstruct it. And there you go. Remember, nothing is a fatal error. You don't always have to be hitting the undo command. You can actually just fix it. Okay, so how am I going to make this thing look like it's supposed to and make it black? Well, first of all, let's add some dimensions. So from here to here is supposed to be 10. And this line is supposed to be 10. Okay, what did it just do? It did something wild to us, okay? Now, by the way, that is one way to make this work, and I don't like that one bit. So what I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna delete that dimension, make it go blue again, because one of the things that I need is for those two sides of the triangle to be symmetric and equal. Equal is gonna do it. As long as they're equal in length, they will be symmetric. There we go. And why that went black, I'm not sure. I feel like it shouldn't. Did I add an accidental constraint? I quite possibly did. Let's look at our constraints and see. Tangent, oh my goodness, how did I manage to do that? Well, that just shows you how easy it is to accidentally put a constraint in that you don't want. I'm going to click that and delete that. Okay, we do not want that line tangent to that circle. But what we do want is for this line to be 10. Now we got what we want. Okay, so see, even I make accidental constraints at times. So there it is. Okay, so that's the sketch we want, the large arm grip sketch. I'm going to accept that. Now we're going to go back to our instructions, and we're going to go on to the next slide. Okay, this time we're going to make another sketch, but instead of making it on that sketch plane that was the face of the large arm, we're going to make it on the near face of the small arm. So we're going to create another sketch. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to drag this over so I can see a little better what I've got. And I'm going to hover over the near face of the small arm, right click, and say new sketch. Okay, so what is this sketch? Well, let's see. Oh, rename it small arm grip sketch. We can do that. Let's do it right now. Small arm grip sketch. All right. Next slide. Oh, look, it's a mirror image of the other one. That's kind of fun. Okay, to create the circle, we're going to project it, and we can actually that's funny. They're kind of doing it in a way that I consider to be not necessary. We could do this so much easier than they're describing it. You know how? Because we know about the mirror function in the sketch. I'm just going to go, well, first I am going to, well, no, I'm just going to use the mirror function. I click mirror, I click my mirror line. Oh, okay, never mind. I thought I was going to be able to pull things from another sketch. Well, that just goes to show you that sometimes I don't even know what I'm talking about. That seemed like a cool thing to do, but apparently we're not going to do that. Okay, fine. We'll do it the other way. We'll click the use, we'll pull that in, we'll get our center point rectangle. Now, I am going to do something. Well, let's see if I drag this out here, if I can reference that point. I really can't reference that point. Okay, fine. So we'll click it. And I thought maybe I could reference that and do a vertical constraint, an automatic vertical constraint, but I could not. But it does say we can add an equal, which that's just kind of interesting. So I can do an equal constraint between those two and these two, and that pulls it in. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so by the way, I'm going to hide the large arm just so we can see that sketch a little better. And I'm actually going to hide the master sketch too, because this is just going to make my life a little bit easier in mimicking the other one. So I'm going to get my line tool. I'm going to click, and again, see how I create, look at it. If I click right then, I'd get a perpendicular to that other line. Do not want that. I don't want yellow. I really don't. Now, I don't mind actually that coming down from coming straight up from that center point, because that's actually helpful, but I don't want to keep going till more yellow starts. See how that happened? Don't want that. So I'm going to click, I'm going to come back here, double click, and now I'm going to turn on the construction tool. I'm going to start here, go straight down, double click, and finish that. And if I make this and this equal, look how that squared that away. Now, I believe I just need to do, I wonder if I made it'll allow me to do a vertical between that point and that point. Yep. See how that locked it in. Okay, so you can do constraints. What apparently you cannot do is do mirrors between two sketches. So that's cool. Now we have our small arm grip sketch. Let's accept that and move on. Next slide. Okay, we're going to flip this around and we're going to create a plane. Okay, so let's go back here. And by the way, the easy way to flip it around is to go and tell it we want an isometric view. Notice that? Oh, probably should bring large arm back too. There we go. And we're actually going to hide these two sketches. We don't really need to see them right now, and we can always bring them back. And we are going to create a plane that we are going to name the mid plane. We're going to offset it 25 millimeters from the near face of the large arm. So let's do that. We're going to get the plane tool. Where are you? There you are. Entities. I'm going to go from here. And by the way, even though it's called midplane, we actually want an offset plane. Offset just means I'm going to pick a plane, and I'm going to make a plane that is perfectly perpendicular, parallel to that plane, excuse me, and then offset by a certain amount. Now, if you notice, the arrow is pointing in the wrong direction. So I'm going to flip the arrow, and I do believe it was 25 millimeters. Yep. So we got exactly what we wanted, except we're supposed to name it midplane. So let's do that. Midplane. And we got the plane we want. What's next? Some more extrusions. Now these ones are a little complicated. What we're going to do is we're going to create some pins. And in order to do these, we were going to use the master sketch. So we got to be able to make sure we can see the master sketch. And then we will, we've got two extrusions actually. We're going to go, because since the master sketch is on the back side of the large arm, we're going to extrude in one direction out to our midplane. And then we're going to also extrude back in a second direction. See these double arrows there? That indicates the second direction back up to this face. Okay. Now it's confusing because what it looks like right here is that you're only extruding that ring. It's not true. We want to actually extrude the inside too. You can't tell that by looking at that, but we want to make a solid. If you look over here, it's solid in the middle, which means we have to accept all of that. So we're creating new parts. We're going to select those four faces. We're going to make the first face up to the midplane and the second face up to this face. Now, let's go to do that. Now, one of the things that is true when we bring that master sketch back is that it's hard to see where we're supposed to click. So what I'm going to do is temporarily hide the large arm. And then I'm going to hit the extrude, and I'm going to extrude here and here. And if you notice, they're in the wrong direction. I'm going to go the opposite direction, change it from blind up to face, and select the midplane. Now I'm going to click over here and here. And why is it being a jerk? Okay, my bad. That was terrible. I should have selected everything before I did that. Let's go back to here and select those other two. We were not focused on the same spot. Now I'm going to do up to face there, and then you can see that we've got what we want. Now the weird thing is, because of the existence of this part here, it almost looks like it did something different. As a matter of fact, we can't even see it. But don't worry about that. We're doing fine. But we are going to select the second end position. It's also going to be up to face. And if you notice, the arrow's pointing in the right direction. Now, what face is it up to? Well, I got to unhide my large arm now because it's up to this face. Okay? And that's exactly what we want. We're going to accept that. Now, I'm going to hide the master sketch again so we can make it look like it's supposed to look. And which is, well, they don't really, they kind of show it over here, but that's what it's supposed to look like. Now, one of the things you might notice is there's some kind of weird yellow and gray mix thing here. We actually extruded this part through the other part. That doesn't sound like something we want. And we are going to correct that later. So if you're worried about that, don't worry about it. We are going to fix that. But for now, it does look kind of weird because it is. Okay, so what are we doing next? Next, we'll use the master sketch to create the 3 different pins. Okay, so wait, is that what we already did? That is what we already did. I'm sorry. We're on step 11. To model the 3rd pin, this one down here, we're going to create a new extrude feature. We're going to select the medium circles, okay, basically the same 2 circles we had before. And we are also going to extrude it out to the midplane, okay? But we are going to flip it around, okay? We want to look at it from the different side. So I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to zoom in down here. And I need to unhide the master sketch because I need that, okay? Now again, the problem is the master sketch is on the other side of this part. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to start my extrude. And again, I'm going to click add first so I don't forget. And I'm going to select those 2 things that I need. And they're pointed in the wrong direction, so I'm going to click the arrow to make it go in the other direction. Change it from blind to up to face. And then I'm going to select my plane again. Okay. And I'm going to unhide my small arm again. Whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to click that. I meant to click the eye. There we go. There we go. Oh my goodness. We got that. And merge scope. It is not add. See, when I did that, it changed it back to add. It has to be new. We want a new part. Okay. And let's make sure that's all we need to do. Pretty sure that's all we needed to do. And that's it. We're going to call that the small arm pin. That tells me that I probably should have renamed parts 3 and 4 something else. So we'll go back and figure that out. Let's name that small arm pin. Small. Actually, we don't need to rename the extrude. Let's make that extrude 4 again. We need to name the part. Okay, so we're going to accept that. This is the small arm pin. Rename it. And what were those other ones supposed to be called? Pivot arm pin, I think. Well, let's go back where we can actually see that. Boy, they're hiding it pretty good. They hit it. Let's see. They're going to tell us what it's called down here somewhere. Okay, large arm pin and pivot pin. There we go. So part 3 is the pivot pin because it's where the thing pivots. Right click, rename pivot pin. And right click, rename large arm pin. Okay, now we got everything looking the way we want it. Okay, let's fast forward. So we did step back a little bit. Okay, this is where we're going to fix that issue that we had before where we extruded right through the middle of the parts. And so we're going to do this thing called a Boolean. Okay, Boolean, if you want a little background on this, Boolean is basically the words and, or, and a couple others, but and or is good enough for us now. When we can basically cause parts to take away from other parts. So what we're going to do is, the way I'm going to explain this is we are going to subtract from the large arm pin, the small pivot pin, and the small arm pin, everywhere they intersect with the large arm and the small arm. So that's what the tools are. Those are the things that are going to cause the subtraction to happen. So it's kind of an and. Okay, anywhere that these things and these things run together is going to get subtracted. And keep tools, yes, because we don't want those 2 arms to disappear. Okay, so let's go and try to do this. So I'm gonna, first of all, I'm gonna hide the master sketch. I'm gonna right click and flip back around to my isometric. I'm gonna hide the midplane too. I don't wanna see any of that stuff, just for now. Zoom in a little bit, and let's get the Boolean feature. Here it is. It looks like one of those Venn diagrams. make it subtract. Now the tools, these are the things that they're going to intersect with, and that's the large arm and the small arm. The targets, the things we're going to subtract from: this pin, and this pin. And you notice, oh, wait, what happened? There we go. I don't know why it didn't take. There we go. Okay. And you notice our little funky things that we had kind of disappeared. So when I click that, look at that. Now, if you were to hide the arms, look what it did to the pins. It took off the intersection between the pins and the arms. Pretty cool. All right, next. Now we're going to create our grips. And the grips are going to be created from those 2 sketches we made. And if you notice, these are also new parts. We're also going to extrude them up to the midplane. So let's go ahead and do that. And and by the way, there's a lot of different things you have to select to make that happen. So let's go back here. Let's flip it around so we're looking at the back side again. I'm going to just hover it a little bit more. Now we need to bring those sketches back so we can see what we're actually extruding. And I'm going to zoom in on it a bit. And we're also going to need to bring back the midplane because that's what we're extruding up to. Okay. Now I'm going to show you, there are some very common issues that happen when doing this. And we're going to show you how to avoid those. So we're going to do an extrude, keep it as new. We're going to say up to face, and the face is going to be this plane here. Okay, now what are we going to actually extrude? We're going to extrude that, and the center hole. Oh, darn it. I see, that's the problem. I did it in the wrong order. Let's do that center hole first. And it flipped it around, so we're going to unflip it. Now we're going to do, so you got to get 3 different things, okay, including the center hole. The mistake that a lot of people make is they don't include the hole. So let's start with the hole again, and then get all the little parts that add up. In this case, we had to do 4, so a total of 7 things. And everything else looks good. They are new parts, and we're accept them. Now, you may notice they're not the same color. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't know what the protocol is for what color it chooses to make things when they make new colors, but it's definitely not any colors that already exist, but it seems rather random to me. Not a big deal. Okay. What's next? Well, you know how we had pins in the other, and we had little extensions of the pins that stick into the arms. We're going to do the same thing here, but we're going to do it with separate extrudes. And part of that is because these sketches don't appear on the same plane, right? They're offset from each other, or actually they appear on the same plane, but they don't extrude to the same part. They don't extrude to the same face. This pin here is going to be longer than the other one because it doesn't have to go through as much. So anyways, let's go ahead and do this. This time we are adding it. We're adding it to the grip that we have, and we're going to do up to face, which is, in this case, the back side of the large arm. So let's flip this around, and I can easily do that by right-clicking and hitting isometric. And I'm going to zoom and drag in over here. I'm going to hide these sketches because we really, well, no, actually, we kind of need those. Don't listen to me. We're probably going to need those. So I'm going to get an extrude. I'm going to make an add, and I'm going to see if I can't click that circle in the center. Yep. And then I'm going to do up to face, and I'm going to click the face, which is this. And there it is. Okay. And it doesn't show it, and that's unfortunate. Well, I think it's because it says, what do we want to merge it to? That's what the merge scope is. I want it to merge to that thing. Okay, but it still doesn't show it. Okay, don't ask me why. Oh, and I can already see I did a boo-boo again. That's okay. I'm going to accept extrude. What was the boo-boo? I didn't rename these. So this is the large arm grip, and that's the small arm grip. So let's rename those. Large arm grip. And right click, rename, small arm grip. Okay. All right. Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing for the bottom grip, or the small arm grip. We're going to add, I'm going to click right there. It's going in the wrong direction, so I'm going to correct that by clicking the arrow. We're going up to face, to this face, and we're going to merge it with, oh, it's funny, it actually already wanted to merge it with the small arm grip, which is what we wanted. I don't know why I didn't do it the other time, but sometimes this thing's a mystery to me. And there we go. Okay, so now we have all our completed parts, and we can hide these sketches now. Okay, so let's do an isometric view to see what we have so far. Looking pretty cool. What happens next? Okay, this is me jumping ahead and do it. We already did slide 15. Okay, we're going to flip it around and we're going to do a part mirror. And we're going to mirror all 3 pins and both grips. And we're going to add them because we're going to add the mirror to the existing parts. And the mirror plane is going to be the face of this extrude. By the way, we could have done the face of any of these and it would have done the same thing. Very important though, part mirror. So let's go back. Let's rotate it a bit so we can see what we're looking at. And by the way, we can hide the midplane at this point. And so we are going to mirror. It's already on part mirror. That's good. But we do have to make it add. The entities to mirror are the 3 pins. By the way, you could have done that same thing by clicking their names down here. I just find it easier to click on the drawing itself. And the mirror plane is going to be that. And look what it did. And I'm going to accept that. So it basically made these things symmetrical. Isn't that cool? All right, what's next? At this step, your model should look similar to the image. Yay, it does. All right, slide 18. We're going to add some fillets. We're going to do 2mm fillets around all the exterior edges, okay, the front to back edges, and then the one that's kind of at the apex of the V, or the vertex of the V. I don't know. Apex? Vertex? Don't ask me. Okay, so we've got 10 edges to fillet. So let's get the fillet tool, set it to 2mm. I like to set the size first on fillets. Sometimes it can cause problems if you don't. And I want all these front to back edges. And we are definitely going to have to do some rotating to make that happen. I'm going to flip over to the other side so I can get that one and that one and that one. And then we got to get those ones on the inside. So I might have to rotate it so I can see that one and rotate it so I can see that one. And those are the edges we need. I'm going to accept that. And there it is. Looks cool. All right, next slide. Select all the parts in the list, right click and choose Assign Material for 7 parts. Assign aluminum 1060. Okay, so I'm going to do my isometric view again. And I'm going to select, by the way, if you want to select all of them, you can click on them individually, or you can hold down Shift, click the last one, and then it'll select everything in between as well. So did we get them all? Yeah, we got them all. Now I'm going to right click in here and say Assign Material for 7 parts. And I want aluminum. I'm going to type AL. Okay, wait. I'm sorry. No, you click. It's weird. You actually have to click where it says none. Then you can type in. And it was aluminum 1060. By the time you get to ALUM, it pops up. And then I'm going to accept that. So now I've added a material to them. If in the real world, that means we would be actually machining these out of aluminum, which is a very common thing. On to slide 20. Let's recap what we did. A bunch of stuff. Yay. Go on to slide 21. Now, this is kind of fun. So one of the things that this is showing us is that once you get to this point, you've created this beautiful portion of a clamp, right? Now, what if we wanted to make some changes after the fact? Does that mean we have to start over? No, no, no. We do not have to start over. What we can do is go back and change some relevant sketch dimensions and create something that is modified. Or let's say we wanted to make, let's say we were a company and we were manufacturing these and we wanted to make them in like 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. We could start from here and we could, and we're not learning how to do this right now, but we could actually make these things called versions, and we could start from the same one, make a second version that was bigger and another version that was smaller. But here we're just altering the one we have. But there's a lot of flexibility in this. And the cool thing is, all I'm going to do is alter some dimensions on my master sketch, and everything else will stay not broken. Now, let's make some design changes. Okay, so I wish they told you which ones you had to change. You don't have to change them all. You just have to change a few of them. And so the ones that we're changing is this big one here, if I'm not mistaken, this radius, and I think that's it. I don't know. Let's find out. So I'm going to actually right click here and say hide all parts. And then I'm going to unhide my master sketch. Come on, master sketch. Oh, there it is. And I'm going to double click it to edit. And I'm going to hit N to look at it. Okay, so actually I was wrong. There's more things that got changed. So let's go back and compare. By the way, I like to fix the biggest one first because it usually scales the whole thing if you do that. So see, this one goes to 300. Let's do that first. Now, to change a dimension, you hover over it and double left click. And then I'm going to type 300. And boy, did it cause problems, didn't it? Okay, so maybe I was wrong about that. But I think if we just keep doing dimensions, cool things will happen. Let's make that 120. Maybe I got that backwards. Maybe we should have gone from small to large. So I'll have to try that sometime and see if that makes it better. What else? I know this radius is supposed to be 20, so I'm going to change that to 20. And let's see, the circles don't look right? So 75 and 25 and 15 on this one. 75, 25, and 15. So 75, double click, 25, and the inner one, double click, is 15. And then I seem to recall that these ones were 45. So let's fix that. 45. Now it looks good. I actually, you know, what I was thinking of is in those cases where you're still creating a sketch, I think it makes sense to me now that in a already fully dimensioned sketch, you would actually want to go from the smallest to largest. It's when they're undimensioned and you just want to make your sketch change some things because maybe you sketched way under proportion or something like that, that you would want to go from biggest to smallest. Because if it's undimensioned, or I'm sorry, if it's not fully constrained, it will scale the part. But if it's fully constrained, that makes perfect sense that it wouldn't do what I was hoping it would do. All right, so there we go. Let's accept that master sketch. Now this is the cool part. Watch what happens when we create visibility for our previous parts. You notice we didn't have to redo the whole thing. Not at all. We just have a bigger clamp. So cool. So we have the basic same look and design, but a bigger one. And like I said, if we were in the business of making clamps in multiple sizes, making our next size took under 5 minutes, right? Pretty neat. Okay, so next slide. Oh, but we got to change the midplane. So we're not done. We're not done. Let's go back. Let's take unhide the midplane. We're going to double click it and change it to 35. Kind of makes sense. Though if we're going to make it bigger in those dimensions, we're going to make it wider as well. And look, but just by changing the midplane, we made the whole thing wider because the mirror is still off. All it did was extend the extrudes out here. The mirror was still based off the face of this guy. And by just changing a few dimensions, we created a very similar but completely different size part and without breaking anything. Okay, so there you go. We made all this starting from one master sketch. Now they want us to do all this stuff, and I suppose we can, so we should. So let's go and select all our parts again. I'm going to click the top one, hold down Shift, click the bottom. I'm going to look at the mass properties, and this thing is 1.635 kilograms. I come over here, click next page, begin the self-check, 1.635 kilograms, and we got it. All right, guys, that is creating multiple parts in a Part Studio. Thanks for joining me.